I don't want to say ignorant, but I think all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are pretty vulnerable and not exactly sure of the world and anything, and you don't really notice those kind of things. But when you do notice it, it hits you really, really hard. And you never guess that you're going to be that girl. You know, you learn about it in DARE, you learn about it with your teachers, your friends, TV shows, and you never think that that's you. So when you do realize it, it hurts. And I had no idea what to do when I was hurting so badly. I also had no idea that one of the reasons I was hurting so badly was because I was struggling with depression. And that's where I'm going to start my story. In 8th grade, I had no idea how to cope with the amount of pain that I was feeling. When you're in that low place, the pain is tangible. You can hold it in the palm of your hand. It's not a pain that you can explain to people because they're not really going to get it. But it's like rocks in your chest. It's like every bone in your body is breaking, headaches. And people say, oh, it can't hurt that bad. It's just because you're sad. Your entire body hurts. And when you're in that kind of pain, you're really willing to try anything to make it go away, or to even have a pain that you can control. So, on one particularly bad night where I was staying at my dad's house, it was the very last time I spent the night at my dad's, I could hear him stumbling around downstairs. I saw a pin sticking out of my junk box. I knew that some people would cut themselves to make the pain go away, but I'd never even thought about it until then. I was so desperate at that point to have a pain I could even control, or a pain that I could focus on instead of the pain in my heart, the pain in my body, the pain in my head from all the depression. So I grabbed the pin and started my on and off 4-year addiction to cutting and scratching myself. It was really easy to hide at first, but once summer rolled around, I eventually couldn't keep wearing long sleeves and sweatshirts and anything like that. So I was forced to uncover my arms. But when my close family and friends asked me what happened, my response always was, the cat did it, or I just slipped. But none of them bought it. But also, none of them helped me. In 9th grade, I finally reached out to someone for the first time. I reached out to Marley, and she helped me find a counselor that I really connected with, and they helped me find healthy coping skills that lasted all of 9th grade. But in the summer after 9th grade, my depression was back, and it was back with a vengeance. It was thinking, nope, you're not getting away from me. I am pulling you right back, and I'm going to put you in a deeper hole that you were in. And I eventually broke down in about July, and my mom took me to a therapist and a psychiatrist, and I was put on a very low dose of antidepressant. Everything was finally starting to get better. I had hope for the future. I finally was starting to feel happy. Like I could smile all the time. I was hanging out with my friends. I didn't feel so lonely. And then the unthinkable happened. My father committed suicide. It was Friday, August 13th, 2010, and I was only 15 years old. That was the single worst thing that has ever happened to me and my family. It became impossible to even get through the day without thinking about him and how much I missed him, and how I didn't want him to go away. It is still extremely difficult to get through the day. Although he had his flaws, he was an amazing dad, and I love him very, very much. After that happened, we increased my dosage of antidepressants so that I could get through what had happened because they were worried about me and I needed to get a little boost. Fast forward about 1.5 years, and it is the middle of my junior year of high school. This is when I really started bottling up my emotions. Nobody wanted to hear about how sad I was anymore. I felt like nobody cared, so why would I bring them down? when I'm down. So I held it all in. And it all went downhill from there. I was holding everything in until about a month and a half ago. In the middle of late January. In the middle to late January, not middle of late. I completely boiled over. I think of it as a full up to the rim cup of water. You add one drop and everything overflows. And you can't stop it. I cried all day for the stupidest reasons. And I eventually had enough. I was feeling that pain that I felt when I started cutting myself. But this time it wouldn't go away. And it was worse. Couldn't get out of bed. I felt completely numb. And it was the worst pain that I've ever gone through. So I took a bunch of pills. Luckily, I got scared. And I didn't end up taking enough pills to kill myself. I had my oh shit moment. Everyone who commits suicide has an oh shit moment. People who commit suicide are human. They're not these super upset, depressed. I mean, of course they're depressed, but that doesn't mean that they don't get scared. They're terrified after they do it. Sometimes it's too late, but sometimes it's just early enough so that their lives can be saved. But everyone who commits suicide has an oh shit moment. After I had mine, I went to the bathroom and tried to get myself to throw up because the amount of pills I took would make me extremely sick. That's where my mom found me, lying down by the toilet, bawling my eyes out. And I eventually got myself to throw up. I talked to my mom about how sad I was, how I couldn't do it anymore. I felt like I was going to pass out. I couldn't do it. And she tucked me into bed and I went to sleep. The next day I came to school, came directly to Miss Lusky and told her that I was not feeling safe with myself. I was still extremely depressed, and if I went home that day, I would have committed suicide because I was not in a good place. I was in a very, very, very deep place. And long story short, well, I talked to Marley, and she helped me, and talked to my mom, my psychiatrist, and I ended up in the ER at Abbott. I was there for about 2.5 hours when they came in and told me I wasn't sick enough. They told me that I wasn't at high risk enough. They told me that if I went home, I would be just fine. So I went home. I was under constant watch of my mom, and I stayed there for the rest of the week. I missed all of my finals of first semester senior year. I missed the very last week of first semester of my senior year. Following Monday, first day of second semester, I returned to school and tried to get through the day. It was pretty easy. It was a half day. I felt like I could get through it. You know, new classes, not really doing anything. And I made it through the day. However, I was still struggling. And I was terrified to tell someone because I felt like if I tell someone, they're just going to tell me I'm not sick enough again. And the next day, the thoughts were extremely overpowering. So at the end of the day, I reached out to Marley again, and Dana, and Andrew, and I broke down completely. She called Hennepin County Crisis Services, and they tried to get a hold of my mom. We eventually called her, and she came in, and we all had a discussion. And they suggested they take me to Fairview Riverside in St. Paul. Long story short, by 1 o'clock in the morning, I was in a hospital bed on 4A, their adolescent unlocked treatment program. I spent the following 8 days there. I learned about coping skills and had multiple family meetings. It was extremely helpful. There were 12 other people there, so it really helped me realize that I wasn't alone. You are not alone. I know that it feels like you are. But if you're struggling like that, you need to reach out to someone. And you need to realize that you aren't alone, because that's a huge part of why I was so upset. I felt like nobody else could feel like that. But there are a lot of other people who do. And you need to reach out because just like any other disease, depression ends lives. But just because you have depression doesn't mean that you can't live a normal life. You can get treatment or medication or both or a therapist or whatever you think will work or whatever works for you. Some people live with depression without a therapist and without medication. And you can go to school, you can have a job, you can have friends, you can have relationships, you can have kids, you can do anything. Depression is not a death sentence. It just means that you have to pay extra close attention to your emotions. Depression doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you've been strong for too long.